Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the first episode of Extra Time, the podcast where I'll be talking everything football for the next hour and a bit or so. Obviously we're in August now, deep into the transfer window, and a big thing I want to talk about is the money in football, really, and what it's done to the footballing economy in general. Obviously, if you think back to when Shearer left Blackburn after winning the title and moved to Newcastle, think of how much money he went for. He went for money at the time that fitted the financial situation of football in general, but also he went for money that at the time was based on his value. And now, obviously, you had the likes of Bale go for a record fee, then Pogba broke that, and then now Neymar. I'm starting to get the picture that really football, the transfer fees don't truly represent the ability of a football player. Obviously, stereotypically, if a player's English, they're homegrown, especially for the Premier League, so they're going to cost more. Players coming from rival clubs are always going to have that extra more, but a player like Romelu Lukaku, for example, is Lukaku a £75 million transfer? Is he worth £75 million? In my opinion, no, he's not. And this is a big thing. Is he worth that money? I don't think so. Is Lukaku going to get golden boot after golden boot after golden boot? For a player who could barely turn up in big games last season, is he going to get golden boot after golden boot after golden boot? Currently, as it stands, I don't think so. I don't think he's that player that will turn up in a big game, in a game versus Manchester City, or in a game in the Champions League where United are in the dying minutes and they need to score a goal. Is he going to be the player to step up and score that goal for them? I'm not sure he is. And it makes me wonder now, with the way footballing economy has been, how much is Lukaku really worth? How much, if your club was to sign Lukaku, how much would you pay for him? In my opinion, exclude the fact that Tottenham have got Harry Kane, in my opinion, I wouldn't pay a penny over 50 million for Lukaku. But then when you've got the likes of Morata going for as much as he has and who hasn't really played regular first team football, you've got Mbappe who's valued at 150 million by Real Madrid. All of a sudden, money and the economy in football has been blown out of proportion. You've got Chinese investors, you've got big investment companies, TV deals and licensing, all these things that are boosting money and giving clubs more money, which means they've got more money to spend, and all of a sudden a player that should be worth, in a realistic world anything above £25 million is actually going for 40 or 50 million. Iheanacho, for example, he's gone to Leicester City for £25 million. What has he done at Manchester City to quantify being worth £25 million? Nothing, really. He's not played regular first team football. He's not been a drastic goal scorer. He's not made an impact every time he's come on the field. So is he worth £25 million? In my opinion, no, he's not. It's got to the point now where the big clubs, the likes of a Real Madrid or Barcelona, are going and have got so much money that then a club like Monaco are going and picking out young scarlets, like the young talent like an Mbappe, or in his first real breakout year, you've got Dortmund going and picking up, even clubs like Dortmund going and picking up like Ousmane Dembele, for example. Now all of a sudden, then these big clubs don't have to waste their time picking out these players, because the clubs that financially can't keep up with the top tiers are not able to keep hold of these players, because you've got the likes of a Barcelona or Real Madrid or Manchester City going and pickpocketing these players out, and the clubs don't have the financial means to keep the players there for longer than that period. There's a divide now where you have the Barcelona, Real Madrid and La Liga that are like the top two. You've got in the Premier League, it's hard to predict, but in the Serie A you've got Juventus that are the top. You've got in the Bundesliga, even Bayern Munich are still way ahead of Dortmund at the moment. And it's you've got PSG and then the head of the likes of Monaco. Yes, Monaco won the league last year, but look at their club now. The club's falling apart because these bigger clubs are able to just come and cherry pick all their players as and when, because they can just throw endless money to the point where Monaco are in a financial situation that they can't really reject that money. Yes, okay, they won the league last year, but they still can't reject that money, and it's it's money in general is just ruining football. Whether it means, in my opinion, whether it means that it needs a complete revamp, a new currency, whether it needs wage structures, things like this. If you think if you think of Paul Pogba, what has Paul Pogba done in one season to quantify being worth God knows how many more than the value of one Dele Alli? And this is not me being biased, this is fact. Ali, in his first year professional football with Spurs, he got Young Player of the Year. Pogba, in his first professional season with United, yes, okay, he's won 3 trophies, but what has he done as an individual to quantify being worth £89 million? Fuck all, in my opinion. He's not done anything. So, to be worth that amount of money anyway. So, you're now seeing the likes of Ben Gibson, I believe it is, going from Middlesbrough for rumoured at £30 million. Is he worth £30 million? No, I don't think so. When you put into the grand scheme of things how much players have paid for certain players, he's not worth that. And it's damaging football as a sport. It's damaging. Football has become now a booming business, and there is less focus on a team winning and oh my god, this team have won the league, and more on the fact that oh my god, this team's earned the most money or this team's paid this much for this player, and it's damaging football. How this can change, I've not got the power to dictate what could change this, and it's a complete revamp of the whole way football works and the way transfers work. And is that ever going to happen? I don't think so. And that's rather disheartening, if I'm honest, because it means that football as a whole is going to keep getting worse. If you think and I'll refer back to it, when Alan Shearer won the league with with Blackburn, and then went from Blackburn to Newcastle, was he worth every penny of the money that Newcastle spent on him? Yes, he damn right well was. But is that same value then? Is the money that Everton paid for Lukaku then the amount versus the amount that they sold Lukaku? Is Lukaku worth the £75 million they sold him for? No, he's not. He's nothing on the level of the likes of an Alan Shearer. And yes, okay, times have changed and football's developed and money's developed and things like that. But this expansion of money, this massive investments, has almost added a 20, 30, 40% value to players sold. Even more so if they're going from the same country. Is Matic worth, was it 35 million that was paid for Matic or something ridiculous like that? Is Matic worth that amount of money? No, he's not. Based on his age, is the position, things like that. Is Matic really worth more than 20 million? Probably not. But because it's a player gone from a player in the same league, it's added so much value. And the reason why it's added so much value is because of the money almost injected into football. It's inflated the money of football, and it's frustrating to watch as a football fan, because now you see teams that are like, okay, this game's 50 quid, or this game's 60 quid, or 70 quid, or 80 quid, or 90 quid, or some seats are £100. Okay, granted, if you're going for the top of the top tier seats in the Champions League final, then yes, you expect to pay top dollar. But if you're going to a team like Middlesbrough versus, say, Watford last year or whatever, you expect to be playing, whatever team you're on, you don't expect to be playing high amounts. But that's what's having to be put, because clubs are getting greedy in a sense. The more they see money, the more they're investing in spending big players, so the more they're upping ticket prices to then bring back that money. And it's gotten to the point where if a team signs a player now, they're not signing that player because it improves their squad, or not necessarily, or because it develops the team. They're signing it because, okay, that's a big name, so we want them. Like Lukaku has been up there with the best of the best goal scorers in the Premier League over the last few seasons. Manchester United have signed him because he's a big profile. Yes, okay, they needed a prolific striker, but they could have gone for Alvaro Morata. Whereas they've instead gone for a big profile, a well-known profile, a player that's hyped up a lot, because then shirt sales will increase, and then the money that they invest back in will go. You've then got the goals that Lukaku will bring over the course of the seasons, the trophies that he'll win, no doubt, at United, because Mourinho is a winning manager. So football has gotten to the point now where it's so money driven that can we really consider it football, or are we just going to watch 11 people or a 25-man squad run around like pistons fueling a business. Is football now about the love of the sport, or is it about the money? For me, it now has drifted more about the money than the enjoyment of the game. And people should play football because they enjoy the sport, or they should watch football because they're passionate about the sport or a team or even an individual player, not because they feel like football's the going thing. Don't get me wrong, but some people are going into football for the money, and this is not how it should be. And yes, this is my opinion, and yes, I can't change that as an individual. But as a football fan, it upsets me that when you see people that of your own age, or you see people playing semi-professional, like, I want to get into professional football because I earn this much a week. Well, that shouldn't be the case. You should want to get into professional football because you love the sport, and this is how money has crippled football. You've got some transfers that are reasonable. For example, the Chicharito Hernandez to West Ham, £13 million for a striker of his calibre. That is a player who's gone for their value. But then you compare that to the likes of a Victor Lindelof, who has gone for £35 million to Manchester United. I apologise if these figures are slightly out. Has gone for roughly £35 million to Manchester United. Is he worth that money? From what I have seen of him so far, no, he's not. He's not got the experience. He's not really composed. He doesn't seem to have the defensive mindset yet to come into a team and be, you know what, if we get a defender injured, he's going to step up and he's going to lead our defence and control our defence to the point where we don't let in goal after goal after goal, or silly last minute goals that are dropping us points. Is he that sort of player? No, he's not. Clubs are paying ridiculous amounts for players because of the money that's been invested into football. Look at, and I'll go on to him in a second, but I don't want to specifically talk about it now. But the Neymar transfer, for example, is Neymar worth £198 million? In my opinion, no. Neymar, is he worth it on the face value? No. Is, however, Neymar worth £198 million to Paris Saint-Germain? Yes, he is. And I'll give my reasons. Barcelona, they can invest that money. If they throw £100 million at Borussia Dortmund for Ousmane Dembele, it's better for Dortmund to sell him for £100 million to Barcelona for a player that wants to go to Barcelona, where then he can then spread the money out and build an all-round squad that's going to help them challenge for the Bundesliga next season. That's what they need. So that £100 million for Ousmane Dembele is good for Dortmund, and they are likely to accept. Which then means that's a good deal for Barcelona because they've got a like-for-like replacement, a good player, young, potential, really boosting. Obviously, Neymar's 25. Then you've got think of it from a Paris Saint-Germain perspective. They should be winning the league every year. Last year was an exception. And I do think they will go back to winning ways in the league. But what do Paris Saint-Germain have, or don't have, or didn't have, that Barcelona and Real Madrid have? Real Madrid have a Ronaldo. Ronaldo is a football icon. People go to Spain to watch Ronaldo. People go and support Real Madrid because of Ronaldo. A lot of people get into football because of Ronaldo. Ronaldo is a footballing icon, which brings TV deals, shirt sales, meetups, which people will pay hundreds of pounds to go and see Ronaldo, if not thousands. Brand deals, sponsorships, all this money means that Ronaldo, actually, the money that's paid for his wages weekly, Real Madrid probably earn that back 3 or 4 times the amount every time they pay his wages. Messi for Barcelona, the exact same principle. Messi is a footballing icon. People go to Spain to watch Messi. People support Barcelona because of Messi. People get into football because of Messi. Messi is a footballing icon. You've got TV deals, shirt sales, boot sponsors, all this sort of meet and greets, all this sort of stuff means that Messi pays back the money that Barcelona pay for him in wages. What are PSG missing? They were missing a Ronaldo or a Messi. They were missing a player that was the face of their club, that was seen to be the one that would pick a game up in the 90th minute and go and score a goal that got them through to the Champions League final. They were missing that world-class talent, and this is why, for me, Neymar to PSG makes sense. at the moment. Neymar is not going to progress at Barcelona under the shadow of Messi or under the shadow of Suarez, because you just can't do it. If you're in the shadow of someone for every game for the entire, bear in mind, Messi's about 28, 29 if I'm not correct. Ronaldo's about 31, 32. If this is just off the top of my head, if Neymar stayed at Barcelona till Messi retired, he'd probably get about 3 years where he would have to single-handedly, or at least be the core centre, to lift them to the Champions League to have any chance of winning the Ballon d'Or, right? Because that's every footballer's dream. At the start of it is to win a league or whatever, and then it's to win the Ballon d'Or and be known as the best player in the world. If Neymar's to do that, he can't. He's either got to wait, or he's got to move to a club where he's that star man, where he's the focal point, where he is the selling point for a club. If you're trying to convince new fans to join your club, you need a selling point. And for me, Neymar is now the selling point for PSG. The shirt sales he'll bring, the meet and greets, the fact that you'll see PSG in the first thing you think about when you hear the word Barcelona is Messi, and the first word you think about when you hear Real Madrid is Ronaldo. The first word now when you hear PSG is Neymar, and that's what PSG needed, in my opinion, to take them to the next level. If in 5 years' time, when Neymar hits 30, if he's not won the Champions League and the Ballon d'Or, then yes, he made the wrong move. But at the moment, I feel like it is better for his career to make this decision and move to PSG and be the focal point, be the star man, the man that's on every name in the team sheet. When someone says, how are PSG going to get in doing the Champions League this year? They've got Neymar. He's really going to lift them and boost them. They're going to push on and get to the final, or even go and win the Champions League, which is what PSG really need to be considered an elite of an elite club. They're now top of their league. They're the best team in the French league by a mile. Okay, last season they didn't show it, but again, that's a hiccup season in many. So he's the vocal point. He's the driving force now behind PSG. The money that they pay for him, well, the £198 million, was the money received by Barcelona to PSG, right? In a year, say he makes, let's say for example he makes, in 2 years, he makes £40 million worth of shirt sales. Well, hold on a second. Neymar's only then worth 158 million pounds. Then you've got the meet and greets, the TV deals, the sponsorships. All of a sudden he's only worth 100 million pounds, and then he's worth 70 million pounds, and then he's worth 40 million pounds, and all of a sudden, in a 3 or 4 year plan, PSG have made every penny back and profit on Neymar. So is it then worth it for PSG? Yes, it damn right well is. And people will say he's moved to a lesser league, blah, blah, blah. He's moved to a club that already in the top tier of clubs in Europe, and now he needs to be the one to take them to the next level. And if he's really going to prove himself as a football player and say, you know what, I want to win the Ballon d'Or and I'm going to do everything possible to do that, he needs to be the one to pick PSG up and say, you know what, Champions League semi-final, 2-1 down. If we score one goal, we go through an aggregate. He needs to be the player that picks that ball up in the halfway line, runs through a bunch of players, doesn't stop until he's put that ball in the back of the net and got them through to the final, or won them the Champions League. This is what Neymar needs to be if he's going to be considered on the same level as a Messi or a Ronaldo. And this is why moving to PSG, in my opinion, makes sense. However, does it make sense for the rest of football? No. 198 million is a lot of money. Let's face it, and that's obviously stating the obvious, but a lot of people don't seem to realise how much 198 million pounds is. You had Bale break the transfer fee, then you had Pogba, now Neymar. Pogba 89 million, Neymar's 100 plus million above that. So all of a sudden then, the likes of an Iheanacho that should be going, in my opinion, for around £18 million is going for £25 million because they've had to add that extra little bit on because Neymar has now set the bar. And this is the problem. When a player has gone for this much money, he has set the bar. He has moved forward the financial transfers of football in general. Next thing you know, you're going to be seeing, if and God forbid, if he ever does, I'd be rather upset by it, if Harry Kane was to ever leave Tottenham Hotspur, he would be going. He's the closest thing to Alan Shearer that we've had since Alan Shearer himself. If Harry Kane is to leave Tottenham, how much is he going to be worth? 180 million, because all of a sudden you add the price of him being English, you add the price of him probably going to another Premier League club because his dream is to win the Premier League. All of a sudden, then you're adding all this money on a player. Yes, okay, he's potentially worth it in this day and age, but is he worth more than Neymar? Probably not. Is he worth more than Messi or Ronaldo? Probably not. As a footballing, as a sport, maybe I know to a Spurs fan, for me he's priceless. But as a footballing sport in general, is he worth that much money? Probably not. But find me another striker, his age, as good as him, that's around at the moment. You've got Cavani, who's quite older. You've got Mertens, who's quite old. You've got Suarez, who's obviously in his early 30s now. You've got Daniel Sturridge, who if Daniel Sturridge wasn't injured, would he be a £50 million player? Potentially. Is he worth £50 million? I don't think he's done it consistently enough over the course of years to prove that he is worth that amount of money. Is a Jermaine Defoe, obviously Jermaine Defoe went on a free, but imagine if Jermaine Defoe was to left Sunderland for a value, how much would he be worth to Sunderland? For them, he was the driving force behind any points that they did get last season. So all of a sudden then, any teams that had come asking for Defoe, if it wasn't in his contract a clause to leave for free, obviously if they got relegated, if someone come in, it'd be like £30-40 million, because he's one of the best goal scorers the Premier League's ever seen. So it really has, the Neymar transfer has really set the bar now, and I think this is what's going to create the divide I was talking about between the likes of Real Madrid and Barcelona and then an Atletico Madrid. Have Atletico Madrid got the financial means and capabilities to go in for, say, Barcelona and Real Madrid, or say Barcelona are going in for a player and Atletico Madrid are going in for that same player? Who's going to win the bidding war? Real Madrid. Because if they really want that player, they're going to keep bidding and bidding and bidding and bidding and bidding until they physically burn Atletico Madrid's pockets, and then they can say, you know what, we can't do it anymore, we're pulling out. And this is the problem, is you're going to find the likes of an Everton who have gone and spent ridiculous amounts of money this transfer window, and it's quite well spent if I'm honest. The money that Everton have spent this transfer window, are they really going to be able to push to the next level? No, they're not, because, for example, who are they going to replace Lukaku with? Lukaku's a £50 million striker, right? And ideally, if you're selling a player, you need to get a like-for-like replacement in, right? So they sell Lukaku for 75 million, right? They want a £50 million striker, which, in my opinion, is what Lukaku's worth. Lukaku is worth mid-50s to low 60s for how much Lukaku's worth. So who have they got? Who have you got in the world that's roughly worth that? You've got Belotti, who's supposed to be going for 80-something million. You've got, obviously, Harry Kane, who's not transferred to a club yet, so who God knows how much he'd go for. Is there any... Potentially Daniel Sturridge if he was fit, but then if he was fit, would Liverpool sell him? Probably not. So it's gotten to the point now where you're selling players for ridiculous amounts of money, but because your club doesn't have... Everton could go and spend that £75 million on one striker, and another, if that striker was good enough and high profile enough, a bigger club would come in and put a bid in 76.5. All of a sudden Everton say, you know what, we haven't got that transfer budget. We're on the verge of spending every penny to bring back one player, or to bring one player to the club. Have we got the financial means to do that? No, we haven't, so we're pulling out. And instantly then Everton are without a striker who's going to score enough goals to try and push them in the Europa League or push them in the Premier League and see if they can just try and break into that top four if they get lucky. So, for me, the Neymar deal has set the bar now, and I don't think we'll be seeing the likes of a 10, 15, 20 million pound player anymore. I just don't think we will. I think we'll be seeing a £50 million player here when a player should be worth 30 million, or £40 million for a player should be worth 20. You're going to be seeing a half to 2/3 worth more of value on a player because of what this Neymar deal has done. Not only that, but another effect of Neymar is buyout clauses. The fact that the La Liga said no, we're not accepting the £198 million, or that's how much they received. We're not accepting you paying that for Neymar's buyout clause. And then you've got Barcelona said, we're not accepting that for a buyout clause. When a buyout clause is in your contract, if that clause is met, there is nothing they can do now, and that has been proven. If a player like Van Dijk, for example, Van Dijk clearly doesn't want to be at Southampton, right? If Klopp says, you know what, we can't afford to get you this window, the club's putting up too much fines, and Van Dijk says, you know what, that's fine, I'll sign a new contract now, I'll have an extra 20k a week, right? I'll sign a new contract, but I want a buyout clause in my contract for £45 million. Then all of a sudden, in January, Liverpool come in, pay that £45 million, nothing they can do about it. Because that buyout clause is there. This is another result or another thing that's done to damage football with Neymar going for that as much as he did, and the fact that it was a buyout clause and not a bid. Because a bid you can just reject and reject and reject and reject, even if it's 6 or 7 times the amount of the player's worth, you can still keep rejecting it. A buyout clause, and it's now proven you can't reject it. You can't pull out of a buyout clause. When someone activates that buyout clause, that's it. A player's gone. So now, all of a sudden, it means that if someone like Ross Barkley, for example, heavily linked to Spurs, would love him at Tottenham. If Ross Barkley would say, you know what, I'll sign a new contract, Everton. You're being stubborn and not letting me leave. I'll sign a new contract until... I'll sign a new contract, I'll get paid more each week, I'll play a couple of games here and there, and then someone will activate my buyout clause, which is in this new contract that I've signed, and I'll go. Sigurdsson, if he really wanted to, he could say to Paul Clement and the Swansea board, right, I'll sign a new contract, even though he only signed one like last year, I'll sign a new contract, but I want a buyout clause of £45 million. They know his valuation is £50 million, so then all of a sudden Everton come in, you know what, we can get him £5 million cheaper than what Swansea want him to go for. So we'll go in January, activate the buyout clause, bang, 3 weeks later, done, deal's done, medical's happened, and the player's in an Everton shirt. All of a sudden, this is what Neymar has done to football now. And I'm not saying Neymar's fault specifically as a human being, but I am saying football's fault in general. And I don't think now that's something we can control. I think that's something like, what if Harry Kane was to say, okay, I'll sign a new contract, but I want a £100 million buyout clause, he's probably worth more than £100 million, to be honest with you, in this market. But then Manchester United come in, you know what, Lukaku's been injured, Lukaku's broken his leg, for example, snapped his bone in 3 places, he's going to be out for a season and a half, right? So then, all of a sudden, Man United come in and say, you know what, we need a striker, proven in the Premier League can score goals. Who do we look for? Harry Kane, £100 million buyout clause, accepted, done, nothing we can do about it. So this is what buyout clauses were never really met, or were never openly met until now. Or you have players negotiating bids and things like that, and you can get it where you're in a bid frenzy, where you're tight and compact, and and it's bid after bid after bid after bid, and it's like ping pong, ping pong, ping pong, ping pong, with bids between clubs. But then the player says, you know what, I'll resolve this, I'll sign a new contract, but I'm having a buyout clause. Club are like, yeah, no problem, January, buyout clause met, sold, gone. And I now worry, especially I'll use Spurs as an example again, obviously being a Spurs fan. Look at Toby Alderweireld, not signed a new contract yet. Rumours have it Spurs haven't offered him one, fair enough. If he signs a new contract for 4 years what we'd like, signs a new contract 4 years, and then Spurs say, okay, no problem, sit down, write terms of contract, can I have a buyout clause, £45 million, yeah, no problem. Then all of a sudden, Chelsea go, you know what, we need a bit more experience in our defence. You know what, £45 million, we'll activate that, we'll have the best centre-back in the league, cheers. What can we do about it? Fuck all. Because it's met every rule in the book. And this is one of the many problems with football, and it's really frustrating. It's quite worrying, especially for clubs that have got young, promising players. For example, a Demarai Gray, or let's go Riyad Mahrez, for example. Riyad Mahrez has got ability. He's proven that, right? There's a bidding frenzy between... supposedly Spurs are linked, supposedly Arsenal are linked, and Roma are supposedly heavily on the trail for Riyad Mahrez. And Riyad Mahrez says, I've expressed that I don't want to leave, but it's fine, I'll wait until January, I'll sign a new contract now, I'll wait until January, and then I'll get them to activate my buyout clause. What the fuck can Roma do? Absolutely nothing. Apologies for my swearing, by the way. What can Roma do? Absolutely nothing. They're screwed. And it's just getting so... concerning. Like of a Stoke, they couldn't keep hold of Arnautovic. If they kept putting force and saying no, and then Arnautovic said, you know what, I'll sign a new contract with a buyout clause, bang, gone in January. What the hell can they do? Absolutely nothing. Once clauses are in that contract, they have to be met. And Neymar going for so much means now that no matter how much your buyout clause is, a club are going to meet it. If they want you, they're going to meet it. Mbappe, if he signs a new contract in 6 months with a £200 million buyout clause, do I think in 3 years' time, if he continues to progress on the scale he is, Real Madrid are going to pay that? Of course they bloody well are. If they don't even sign him by the end of this window. So, football's gone crazy, really. And money, I'd love to know people's thoughts on it, whether people think that it can be solved, whether people think that, like, breaking the currency of football, stopping these big TV deals and things like that. Because as football's growing more and more popular over time, and newer generations are coming in, and it's the trendy thing, but for a lot of people, more people are willing to see it. More people want to see it. So more people are willing to pay more to see it. So TV companies can up the amount of pricing, which means that the clubs make more profit, which means they can invest more in players. And it's just a chain reaction. And I don't think there's very much that can break it. And it's a sad thing to see. But yeah, I'm just not convinced that it can be broken. So that's my standpoint on that. And how I see football transfers as a whole. And that's how I think that football's going, really. Next thing I want to do is I want to do a little bit of predictions for the weekend's results. Before I get onto other topics, I'm just going on to the app now to make sure I know the matches. So, we have on Friday, which is 2 days' time, I believe. Oh, it's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Yeah, 2 days' time. Arsenal versus Leicester. Arsenal at home. Let's talk about Arsenal a little bit. Their signings. They've signed Lacazette. I think it's a good signing. I think he'll get a bit more goals than people are saying. I think probably 20 goals next season, which would be a good goal contribution for him, not including maybe 5 assists or so, which I think 25 goal contributions in all competitions for Lacazette in his first season would be good. Obviously, they've signed Kolasinac on a free, who's unfortunately scored more goals than Moussa Sissoko, and we paid £30 million for him, but let's not get onto a conversation about Sissoko. Arsenal, I think Arsenal are going to try and push it in the Europa League, if I'm honest. I think their squad depth in terms of like their injuries they get in, they haven't really got a leader at the back in terms of a centre back. Mustafi's not been as good as people expected him to be, me included. They're potentially on the verge of losing Chamberlain. It looks like they're keeping Sanchez, but he's not going to be fit for the start of the season. So I think there's more work Arsenal can do in the transfer window. I think a long-term replacement for Cazorla is potentially needed. And I just think of quite a few squad rotation players, if not first-team starters, to knock the likes of a Walcott onto the bench, etc., etc. I think that's what Arsenal need to improve them. And Leicester, obviously, Iheanacho, fantastic signing, as I've already spoken about his price and my opinion on that. But I think Iheanacho is a fantastic signing. However, he's injured pretty much straight away. I think Harry Maguire is a good signing. I think so far they've kept all the cash for Schmeichel, which is good. And I think Leicester, when they sell Mahrez, which I think is inevitable in this transfer window, will they spend the money wisely? Yes, I will. However, I don't see anything but an Arsenal win. I think 2-0 to start the season off is probably the most likely result for the Arsenal-Leicester game. Next is Watford versus Liverpool, lunch kick-off on Saturday. Watford actually supposedly had an £18 million bid accepted for Andre Gray. Now, that'll be interesting to see whether that's done and whether he's ready to play on Saturday, because I think that could be a big difference in the result. I think Watford have made... Let's have a look and see who Watford have made. Who Watford have signed, because I can't remember everybody off the top of my head. Obviously, I'm not a computer genius. So Watford have signed Chalobah. I think Chalobah's a good signing for Watford. I understand why he's left, obviously not wanting to go out on loan and things like that. £5 million, fantastic player. That's a player for me who's gone for maybe slightly less than what they're worth. So I think that's a great, fantastic signing for them. Apart from that, Watford really haven't done much in the transfer window. In terms of a marquee player, I think Andre Gray would be that player. Obviously, Liverpool have signed Salah. Lallana being injured is a concern for me. If I was a Liverpool fan, I'd be rather concerned about that. And I think that Liverpool do need quite a few more signings because their squad still has quite a lot of holes. If they get an injury to a centre-back in the Champions League group stage, first game, that's going to put Matip out for 6 months, who do you bring in? Do you bring in Klavan? Do you bring in Lovren? Are they good enough for that level of football? In my opinion, no, they're not. So Liverpool still need signings. Robertson's a good signing for them, quite a budget player, but he's still going to be better than Milner playing every game, left back next year. But yeah, that's for me. this game's gonna be almost a reflection of Burnley last year when Liverpool lost 2-0. Can Liverpool's attacking power break a defence of a team that's going to sit back, or are they going to get caught on the counter and they're going to lose? Because for me, if Liverpool were to lose the first game of the season this year, it would be an absolute disgrace. I do think Liverpool will win. I'm saying 2-1 Liverpool, and they are away, but I still think that's a good result. But Liverpool do need some signings, and likewise with Watford, I think they need signings to strengthen weaker positions. Both, I think, need defenders, but that's my standpoint on that. Chelsea versus Burnley. Now, this is interesting, because Burnley had the third best home defence last year, behind Tottenham, Chelsea, and then Burnley. But what have they done? They've sold their best defender. They're on the verge of selling a prolific striker, or maybe not prolific, but a quality striker. So is this cause for concern for Burnley? Yes, it is. Would I now change where I think Burnley are going to finish? Probably yes. I think Burnley are more likely to get relegated now. And Burnley, it was obvious that this sort of season was going to happen for Burnley at some point. And I do feel bad for Sean Dyche, because I think last season Burnley had a fantastic season for their standard. And he did well to take them down, bring them back up. But I do think this season may be Burnley's last in the Premier League again for another year. Chelsea sold obviously Matic. Never good strengthening a rival. Trust me, I know about that. But I think the money they got for Matic was a player well sold. I think not getting Lukaku was a big miss, and I think Morata. I don't know if Morata will be the player to step up and fill Diego Costa's shoes in a season. I'm not sure really that Morata has got he's got the potential, great, don't get me wrong, but first season in the Premier League, is he going to have enough to push Chelsea for a title? I don't think so. So I think Bakayoko is a good signing. I think Rudiger's a good signing. I do, however, think Chelsea need fullbacks, because I don't think Moses is good enough for the Champions League, or really for the top 6 in the Premier League. I think Alonso's potentially good enough for them to push for one more season, but again, you'd like to see a Chelsea go in for a 60 million for an Alexandro, and then I don't know, a right back who's good enough, an Aurier for example, spend £90 million on fullback. Yeah, okay, it's all Pep spent loads of money on fullbacks, but if that's the positions Chelsea need to strengthen, then they need to do it. Not only that, is they're going to miss Hazard at the start of the season, which is a bit unfortunate. However, I do see a win for Chelsea. I think it'll probably be a 1 or 2-0. I think it'll be quite a nitty-gritty game, but I think Chelsea at the Bridge will have an advantage there. Everton versus Stoke. Now, this is interesting, because before the transfer window started, before the big Everton started making loads of big signings, I said 3-2 to Everton. However, Stoke losing Arnautovic, potentially signing Bruno Martins Indy, but again, that's not confirmed as it stands at the moment. I'm not sure Stoke are going to be able to hold Everton at all. Everton have had a fantastic window so far. Rooney, a great leader, he'll want to win a trophy, whether it's an FA Cup or Europa League, with Everton at some point before he retires. Michael Keane, fantastic signing. Jordan Pickford, fantastic signing. Klassen hasn't hit the ground running yet, but he looks like he'll be a quality signing. Obviously, he got experience from the Europa League final last year. Sandro looks like to be a really good signing for the little that they paid for him. So Everton, maybe they need a few more players. A Sigurdsson would think top of Everton's transfer window, is probably one of the best in the Premier League. But I don't see anything but an Everton win here. I think probably a 3-0 to Everton. I think it'll probably be quite a few goals from midfield. They've kept hold of Idrissa Gana Gueye, which is quite a good player to keep hold of. So that's where I see that one. West Brom versus Bournemouth. Now this is interesting again, because West Brom haven't made they've made Jay Rodriguez, great signing, but I don't really think West Brom are any stronger than they were last season. I don't think Jay Rodriguez increases them enough to say, okay, they're now stronger than they were last season. Whereas Bournemouth haven't lost any marquee players, and they've added a world-class striker in Jermaine Defoe. Premier League experience. They've kept hold of the likes of Josh King, Callum Wilson, Benik Afobe. It will rise their team up and up and up, and I think maybe Wilshere. Oh, I know he was injured a lot last season, but I think maybe Bournemouth should look at another midfield loan player from a big club, so to speak, that's going to bring Premier League that's going to bring experience playing in Premier League at a top level, and just lift Bournemouth up a little bit. I do think it'll be another fantastic season for Bournemouth. I think it'll be another top 10 again. And I think I see a 2-1 win to Bournemouth on the first day of the season, if I'm honest, for them. Southampton versus Swansea. Now, Swansea. Sigurdsson saga. Swansea Sigurdsson saga. Bit of alliteration for you there. What's going on with Swansea, really, isn't it? They've signed Mesa from Spanish League. He looks to be quite good. I'm not 100% sure who else they've signed, actually. Give me a second, I'll have a look. Squad, who else have they signed? Yeah, they've not really signed anybody else, Swansea. Do I think Swansea will struggle this season? Yes. Do I think they'll stay up? Yes. Even if they lose Sigurdsson, I think they'll be smart enough to spend the 48 to 50 million pounds well-rounded and bolster their squad well-rounded to ensure they have enough to cope in the Premier League, and therefore Swansea will stay up. Southampton, on the other hand, I'm not sure with Southampton. Gabbiadini, I think he'll play well. It'll be his first. When he gets January transfer window next year, it'll be his first full season. Obviously, he got injured for a bit, but again, he's proven to be quite a clinical goal scorer, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how he does next season. Lamina, they've signed him, record fee, £20 million. Great centre midfielder. He was fantastic at Marseille before he moved to Juve, and I think he'll be brilliant for them. Van Dijk, they need to resolve Van Dijk. If they're going to sell him, they need to sell him soon, and they need to make sure they get the right price and they spend the money well. Obviously, they're linked to signing Kevin Wimmer from Spurs. Gabriel, I think there was a link from Arsenal, but I can't see them signing him because obviously Arsenal are quite low on defenders. So I do think that it's going to be an interesting season for Southampton. I don't think they'll get top half. I think they'll really struggle. But I think first day of the season, I think probably a 1-0 win for Southampton is what I'm going to go for. Crystal Palace versus Huddersfield. Now, Crystal Palace, in my opinion, have probably had the best transfer window. Why? Because they've got a quality proven manager who's going to drive their team forward. And for me, that is better than any signings that clubs have made so far this year. Because it's going to take them from potentially dropping into a relegation battle, which they were when Big Sam took over, to them potentially, like they were with Pardew for up to Christmas, the season Pardew got sacked. In Christmas, they were on the verge of a Europa League position. So I think Crystal Palace will get top half. I think Benteke, they've kept on to Zaha, which is very important. Zaha, Townsend, Benteke will fire them. I do think they need signings. But do I think that not having more than, say, Ruben Loftus-Cheek they've got on loan is going to cripple Crystal Palace? No, I don't think it's going to cripple them. I think that Crystal Palace will be fine. I think they'll have a good season. Unlike Huddersfield, who, for me, they were lucky to come up, as it was. They scored least amount of goals in the playoffs or something along those lines. So do I think that Huddersfield really are gonna stand any chance in the Premier League? As harsh as it's to say, no, I don't. And I wouldn't be very shocked if they were. I'd be very shocked if they weren't to lose 2, potentially 3-0 on the first day of the season against Palace. Brighton versus City. Now let's start with the smaller. Let's go for Brighton. Brighton, again, very much like Huddersfield, not had a great window. However, players like Anthony Knockaert, I think last season he really shone in the Championship, and I think he'll do really well in the Premier League this year. And I wouldn't be surprised if he does do well if he's not picked up by a bigger club like a Southampton or a West Ham potentially. Obviously, they run the risk of doing a Robert Snodgrass, but I think he would be a fantastic signing for them. If Knockaert has a good season, I think Brighton will go down. But I think Brighton will be like Middlesbrough last year, where they'll go down, but they'll put up a fight until the last month or so, and then that's when they'll cave in. And that's due to no fault of their own. It's just hard to prepare in one season your team for the Premier League. Manchester City, however, what transfer window they've had. Obviously, they've signed a lot of players. Ederson looks fantastic keeper. Kyle Walker, best right back in the league. Even as much as I hate him, I'm not going to be deluded by it. He is the best right back in the league, even though he can't cross. Mendy, good signing. They've got rid of Deadwood like Clichy and obviously Caballero's left, which is a bit of a loss for them. I think he'd have been a better keeper it'd been better selling Bravo or loaning Bravo and whatever, but loaning out Joe Hart I think is a good move for both parties as well. Selling Fernando I think is good. They've kept hold of the likes of De Bruyne. They've got Gabriel Jesus, will be his first full season. Who else have Manchester City signed? Let's have a look. Manchester City squad. Bernardo Silva. I think Bernardo Silva will be quite a good signing. I don't think he'll hit the season running like he did in League One last year, but I do think he'll play well. Danilo, good signing, fullback, looked really, really promising. So that's good. They've improved in positions, but I think they need another centre back because if Kompany gets injured, I don't think John Stones is the man to step up and be a leader at the back for Manchester City. So I see, as much as this pains me to say it, I see probably a 3 or 4-0 win for Manchester City on the first day of the season. And then Newcastle versus Tottenham. Now, both similarly have had shit transfer windows, to be honest with you. We'll start with Newcastle first. Newcastle haven't signed anybody of key profile. They've not signed any Premier League experience. They've not signed a Premier League proven goal scorer. I think Gale will be good, but if Gale gets injured, what have they got? I think that's frustrating for Rafa. I think he's a good enough manager and they do have a good enough well-rounded squad to stay up, but are they going to get anything above 15th or 16th? Probably not. Spurs, on the other hand, obviously at Wembley for next season. We proved against Juventus that Spurs can play at Wembley. We proved against Chelsea last year, despite losing 4-2, that we can still play at Wembley and play well. However, the loss of Kyle Walker is a big concern. Kieran Trippier's injury is a big concern. The fact that Moussa Sissoko wears a Spurs shirt is still a big concern. And overall, it's been a shitty transfer window for Tottenham at the moment. I do think there are players coming. I do think we'll sign the likes of a Ross Barkley. Not sure anybody else. Damari Gray. And they're players that would be good for Spurs. But we are stuck in the same bracket I was talking about between a Monaco, where we don't seem to have the financial capabilities or the way to attract a player, to attract a 50, 60, 70 million pound player. So we're signing little players to bolster out our squad. Don't get me wrong, first 11, best 11 in the league. But our depth is shit. Toby Alderweireld contract needs sorting out, and Spurs need signings to bolster the squad. Another midfielder, a right back, and a pacey winger, potentially another attacker. But again, when Son and Lamela come back, Lamela looks really fit. Son's 2 or 3 weeks away from being back. So Spurs have got the potential there to push for a title challenge next year. I think they'll push for a title challenge. But again, I think it's another, at least major trophyless season for Tottenham. Manchester United versus West Ham. Now, obviously, Manchester United, previously spoken about Lukaku before. £75 million on Lukaku. £40 million on Matic. £35 million on Lindelof. They've kept hold of De Gea, which is a big thing. But United are still missing. Let me see if United haven't signed anybody else I've forgotten about. United, for me, should be selling the likes of a Mata and a Fellaini and an Ashley Young, because they're players that really aren't. They're not first team players and they're not really good enough for Manchester United's bench. If Manchester United want to be up there challenging for Champions League titles again, like they used to be, then in my opinion they don't have the squad to do that at the moment. So I do think United will sign maybe 1 or 2 other players this transfer window. Who it will be, I don't know. But I don't think United have the depth this season to 1, win the league, and to 2, progress majorly in the Champions League. So I think while United have had a good transfer window, I think it's going to take 2 or 3 more to get the club to the level that they need it to be. West Ham, on the other hand, I think have had a fantastic window. Hernandez, fantastic signing. He'll get them probably 15 goals a season. Arnautovic, brilliant signing. They've kept on Lanzini as it stands, which is fantastic. They've signed some 18-year-old called Sed Hakasabanovic, something like that. You'll know who it is. I think I've not seen much of him, but again, for as little as they paid, it might be a good signing. They've got Zabaleta, good signing. Joe Hart, good signing. They've got winning experience now. They've got experience and that they need. But for me, West Ham still need another centre back. You know, you've got Winston Reid, 29 years old. Ogbonna, 29 years old. They're going to start struggling. If Bilic wants to play a back three next year, West Ham need an experienced centre-back and a young centre-back with potential to really boost the squad depth. Because if they want to be challenging for Europa League, which realistically it should be them and Everton challenging for Europa League year after year, then that's what they need to be doing, in my opinion. So that's my transfer window roundup and score prediction for West Ham and United. Nearly forgot about that. So, Manchester United at home, obviously. I think West Ham will give them a good run for their money. But I think probably a 3-1 to Manchester United is probably an accurate result. I could be wrong, and I'll revisit these for the next podcast. But that's how I see that going. So yeah, that's that. Obviously, so that's my Premier League predictions for week one. I'm going to do this every week. I hope to have guests on. If you've got guests that you recommend coming up, bringing up, inviting onto the podcast, get them to DM me. All the Twitter links and things will be down below. But for our first podcast, I think if there's any topics people want me to talk about related to football, let me know. But this has been extra time. I hope everyone's enjoyed. And obviously, first weekend of football this weekend. As a Spurs fan, I'm going to say, come on, you Spurs. Obviously, as fans from other football teams, you're not going to want that. But I wish all your teams the best of luck in week one of the Premier League, and hopefully we'll come out with another exciting season like we had last season. But on that note, I shall call this a wrap for the evening, and I shall hopefully see you all here next week.